There's a pretty one, Ulysses. There it is.
Hello, BookTube. I'm Sean the Book Maniac. Welcome back to another Friday Reads filmed on Thursday night. I have had quite the reading week. So, I have two bales to tell you about. Remember that I was going to try a bale from a couple of years ago, 2017, the very end of the year, and I tried it and I bailed again. The Looking Glass Sisters by Gorl Gabrielsen, translated from the Norwegian by John Irons. I got to page 76 in 2017, and I got to page 60 this time. It's just, I can read, and I just recently finished, a superb, absolutely incredible, very dark novel about the Holocaust. And it's not like I'm not affected by the cruelty. I very much am. I very much was. But this is a story of cruelty between two adult sisters and the one sister's husband, taking advantage of and being extremely cruel to the woman's disabled sister. And I just, no, it's just so relentlessly bleak. And maybe it had a happy ending, but I can't imagine how it was going to get to a happy place. I don't need happy endings, but reading a book about a personal relationship between two sisters that is so incredibly cruel, and even the poor disabled woman, she wasn't very nice either, but I mean, she was the victim, but there was just nobody to root for. There was just nothing. I gave it an honest try. I gave it 2 honest tries. I'm done. And today I have bailed on George Eliot's Felix Holt the Radical. I've been reading it since the beginning of October, and I just recently picked it back up after setting it down for several weeks. What happened with this book, I don't think it was that I set it down. I really don't think it was the fact that I kind of was not giving it enough attention. What happened was I realized how much of this novel is about politics, and Victorian novels about politics. I'm a political animal. I spend several hours each day consuming political news, American, Canadian, and otherwise. I love politics. I do not love Victorian novels about politics, and this was 60% that or more. I bailed on Trollope's, the second novel in the Palliser series, because it was just mind-numbing, and this was similarly mind-numbing. When it wasn't about politics, I was engaged, and sure, I could have skimmed through the politics and read the more personal bits. The female characters in here were really interesting, but they were given short shrift, typical Victorian. Doesn't matter if the author's a woman or a man, the women get short shrift in the Victorian novel. If it had been about the female characters more predominantly, I was enjoying that part of the story, but it was so minor, and I was having to wade through these tedious stories about this machination. I guess they were machinations. They were too dull to be machinations, people. I was bored out of my tree. I bailed. I'm done. George Eliot and me on. Kim, are those fighting words? Kim, do you want me to mail you this book? Ugh. So those are my bails. I have finished 3. I finished Richard Kapuscinski's The Emperor, translated from the Polish by William Brand and Katarzyna Mroczkowska-Brand from the Polish, and I really liked it. I didn't love it, but I really liked it. It's my first Kapuscinski anything. I will read more by him. I was really curious about, it's not a biography, it's a book about the Ethiopian Emperor Haile Selassie's reign and court, told in first-person accounts from his former courtiers that Kapuscinski interviewed, and they were very nervous about talking to this Polish journalist, but they did share their stories with him about what it was like to be courtiers in the palace of the then deposed Emperor Haile Selassie. I learned a lot about Haile Selassie. I thought that it really worked as a kind of symphony of first-person accounts in the courtiers' voices. But we knew, anybody who went to Wikipedia for 2 minutes or paid attention to news in the 1970s knows that the emperor was deposed in 1974, and the description of the last months, weeks, and days of his reign got tedious. I knew what was going to happen, and it was just like the details weren't interesting. Even though it's a very short book, it should have been probably 40 pages shorter, and I would have liked it a lot better. But other than that, I really enjoyed it, and it's put me in good stead to read Ethiopian fiction. I have blanked on the Booker-nominated Ethiopian-American novel that I have on my shelf, so I'm not going to go and grab it. I'm going to put the cover image here, and reading this has put me in good stead to start reading that next year. And before I talk about the next book that I finished, I want to, I don't know if apology is too strong of a word, maybe not. I have totally botched my participation in Indigathon, and this is what happened. No excuses, but I didn't find out about Indigathon. I'd never heard of it. And I didn't find out about it until I had prepared my Nonfiction November TBR. And it was like literally the day before, or maybe even hours before I've recorded my Nonfiction November TBR, that I decided, well, 3 of the books, and it ended up that actually 4 of the books that were on my Nonfiction TBR would fit into Indigathon. So I made a Nonfiction November / Indigathon TBR. But I have totally fumbled it because it was such a last-minute addition, and I never got into following the prompts for Indigathon or paying attention to the tweets, because those books that people were reading were kind of genre fiction, which is not my bag. So I was just one step removed from it. And so I never remembered when I was doing a Friday Reads to even mention Indigathon. I think I did once, but I would always remember when I was editing it and put something in the show notes, but I feel bad about that. Next year, maybe I'll skip Nonfiction November and just focus on Indigathon, because some of the best books I read for Nonfiction November were Indigenous titles, and this is the final one that I have finished, and that is Paying the Land by Joe Sacco. Joe Sacco is not Indigenous, but he is a graphic journalist, and he went up to the Northwest Territories and created this. I was a little skeptical going in, but I am a big fan now. He has created a journalistic account of what life is like for the Dene people in the Northwest Territories, to do with politics, cultural genocide, and resource extraction. And I absolutely loved it. I learned so much. I mean, I'm so woefully undereducated about these issues, so I am embarking on this remedial education about Indigenous issues in my own home country of Canada, and this book went a long way to giving me some of the rudiments of what life was like. It was beautiful, powerful, and intellectually spellbinding. With no pat conclusions, he interviewed and has now rendered graphically on the page testimony and life stories of Dene people from northern Canada, to do with land claims and resources and the residential school genocide. And it was just a really deeply moving, heartbreaking, and intellectually stimulating book. I recommend it really highly. It's not cheap to buy. See if your library has it. And it's a book that I will refer back to, because there's a lot of really important information in here that I didn't know before. And my review of this will have already gone up last night. I finished Jhumpa Lahiri's The Namesake, so I started it and finished it in the same week. And unfortunately, it was because I didn't like it, and I just wanted to get it done. So I have it's not a ranty review, but it's an emotional review. The good, the bad, and the ugly about Jhumpa Lahiri's The Namesake. I was deeply, deeply disappointed in this. Didn't like it. Such a waste of writing talent that this is what she produced, because she could have spun a really good story, but she botched it as far as I'm concerned. Check out my review if you want more dirt. It's fair. I talk about what I like too, but it was devastatingly disappointing for me. So that's what I finished. And I have started 2. I have started Vigdis Hjorth's novel from Norway, Long Live the Posthorn, translated from the Norwegian by Charlotte Barsland, and I'm about 30, maybe 40 pages in, and I don't know if I like it or not yet. So maybe I'm not going to comment anymore. Lindsay and I, as far as I know, we're going to meet up sometime after December 20th and have a chat about it. A video that will be on YouTube, and if because of coronavirus or other reasons we're not able to meet and make a video in the same room, we will do it by Zoom. I probably refrain from assigning a Goodreads rating or commenting further, and it'll be a surprise until the video goes up. But it's interesting. It's about a young woman who has almost no self-awareness. She's articulate, but muddled. And she's a professional woman. She hasn't annoyed me yet, but she soon might. And I don't know what to make of it yet. So, stay tuned. And I have also started the American novel by Virginia Reeves, Booker longlisted, I believe. Work like any other. And I just got a bare start, but I'm certainly engaged with it. It is set maybe late 1920s or early 1930s, and it's about a farming family. So it's a farming novel, which is my bag. The husband is living with his wife on the inherited farm, but he is not that interested in farming. He was an electrician, and he is so disinterested in farming. There's a hired man on the farm that's running everything, and he is not getting along with his wife, the heir to this farm, because he's just so not cut out to be a farmer. But he gets the brainwave, this is how the novel opens, of not only bringing electricity to the farm for the first time, but stealing it from the power company. Because he's an electrician, he knows how to steal it and won't have to pay for it, and he thinks that that's going to transform the farm and keep him engaged and interested in making the farm a success. And he is going to conspire to do this and keep the stealing part from his wife. And that's where I'm at. It's definitely interesting. Stay tuned. I thought I would only start one in the coming week, but especially because I bailed on the George Eliot, which was going to take up so time and energy to finish that sucker. I'm so glad I decided to bail. I'm going to start 2 short books in the coming week and still have room for one more buddy read, which is going to be in the last 10 days of December. Stay tuned. I'll keep you in suspense until my next Friday reads. I had long planned to start this one in the coming week, and that is the Romanian novel For 2,000 Years by Mihail Sebastian. This is a modern classic according to Penguin, with that cover photograph. And it is about a young Jewish student in Romania, 1934. Only quite recently translated into English by Philip O. Well, it's a Celtic name. I can pronounce the Romanian dude's name, Mihail Sebastian, but I don't know how to pronounce the translator's name.
Philip O. Sealake.
Philip O. Sealake, there we go. Thank you, Internet, is the translator, and he's also a short story writer. Irish guy living and writing in Bucharest. Apparently, Sebastian is one of the most important Romanian writers in the 20th century, so I have had this book on my shelf for a while, and I thought I wanted to get to it before 2020 draws to a close. So now that I've bailed on the chunky, boring George Eliot novel, I'm also going to start this one in the coming week. A short little British classic. I don't know if classic is a bit of a stretch. It's published under the Penguin Classic imprint. Dorothy Strachey's novella, Olivia. Greg of Supposedly Fun hauled it, but I think I got it just before he did. I don't know if we both found out about it from the same place. I had never heard of Dorothy Strachey. I have read my first anything by Lytton Strachey earlier this year. My review of his biography of Queen Victoria is coming soon to a Sean the Book Maniac channel near you, and this is his sister's, I think, one novel. First published in 1949. She was born in 1865 and died in 1960. She lived a long life. She was also known as Dorothy Bussey, and she was a member of the Bloomsbury Group. This is all new to me. Sister of Lytton Strachey. She was also friends with André Gide. So she was a fag hag, in other words. And this is the story of a 16-year-old girl named, you guessed it, Olivia. Sent to a Parisian finishing school to broaden her education. It is 100 pages exactly. I may well have this one finished by the time you hear from me next. So that is what's on my bibliographic plate. Thanks for watching.